So I left Jehovah's Witnesses about 8 years ago. And last night I was thinking to myself that even though it's been a fairly decent time now, and I wasn't actually born in Jehovah's Witness organization and raised from early childhood, I met witnesses when I was 14, got baptized about 6 months in after meeting them, just after my 15th birthday. But even though I spent my childhood and early teens as a normal person, having spent 22 years as a Jehovah's Witness still left its mark. And I do find that, like I was saying last night, I was thinking, I still feel like I don't really fit back in the society. So I can imagine that feels even worse for those who were born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness from early childhood. So I was looking up some psychological reasons for that, why it feels like a delayed development almost when you leave a high control environment. So in my case, obviously, Jehovah's religion, Jehovah Witnesses cult. To me, it's a cult, but you're free to disagree. That's fair enough, and we all have our own opinions. But in my experience, I see them as a cult. And what I'm trying to say is, I wanted to find out why I've been feeling like I've still don't quite fit into normal society. And I feel like I've had almost like a delayed social development, trying to reintegrate back into normal society. So as I was doing my research, because I am a psychology student anyway, and I love psychology, is fascinating. So I wanted to share just three reasons for that, and I think a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses can relate to it, whether you've been born and raised in it and then left later, or even if you got recruited later on, spent amount of time in there and then left. So let's start with the first psychological reason for that feeling, and it is delayed identity development. So in simple terms, obviously the description is very self-explanatory. Your identity is given to you by the religious environment. So when you leave, you are basically meeting yourself for the first time in your life. Think about it. Yes, I didn't become a witness until 14, 15. So I did have like a basis already that I've actually gone back to, and I'm reclaiming my original roots, which is why I've gone back to being a Baltic, Slavic pagan, because I am genetically half Baltic, half Slavic, and obviously born and raised in Latvia, and very pagan culture anyway. So I'm embracing my original identity and I'm building on that. But even then, having spent 22 years as a witness really messed with my identity and developing who am I. So coming out of it can feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. So if you've been born and raised in it, you are literally having to start from scratch. So however many years, decades you've been a witness, and now you're meeting yourself for the first time, and it's like I don't know how to fit in anymore. The second one is social skill catch up. And it doesn't mean you don't have social skills, but you were not allowed to develop them with everyone. You were very isolated and kept in a very narrow lane. So like what I found after leaving was that even though I had been with worldly people until I was 14, 15, I've missed out on developing understanding and the skills in romantic settings. It's simple as that, because I was married as a witness at 18, and then we all know it's a very different environment, and you kind of miss out on the exploring dating, exploring different people, and even with friendships. You've not had that social skills to assess people, and you come out and you're very naive, you're very trusting, and that is not always good, is it? Because you end up letting people in your life that don't have your best interests at heart, and it takes time to pick up on social cues that we weren't taught. And it's just like, because having if you're being taught like everyone's brother and sister, you've got to trust them, that's not good. It might sound like a fairy tale. Oh wow, at least you feel safe. It's not good. It really, it leaves you open to predators, really. And it can feel like everybody else knows what they're doing, like they have this manual that you don't, because it's almost like you're a mature student. And having gone back to higher education in my 40s, it is kind of like, wow, other people have done this already. At my age, they're already established, they have their careers and everything, and here's me just starting from scratch. So that's how it really feels. You're starting from scratch in later on in life. And the third point I looked up was also nervous system conditioning. Now that there's a lot of content out there about nervous system regulation, and it really is very important for when you come out of high control environments, to work on your nervous system, because you have been conditioned in a completely different way, that you are almost, I wouldn't say incompatible, but you are, it's like bringing somebody from 18th century into the 21st century. That's a very kind of a basic comparison, but that's how it feels to the nervous system. It's like you're having to catch up with a few centuries. And having been a witness, obviously, there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of, I'm being watched. You judge your own thoughts, your words, and you're very harsh on yourself. And I found that even now, after nearly 8 years from leaving and having had a childhood when I wasn't a witness, but again, I was in the Soviet Union and post-Soviet Union, so there was still that totalitarian regime conditioning of having to watch what you say, having to, be careful what you do, because everyone was watching and judging and you could get into trouble. So it takes a long time to decondition yourself from being in a constant state of alert. And that's something, obviously, in my perspective, I feel that a lot of people who leave high control environments should really go to professionals to help them, like therapy, your GP, whatever it takes, and not just like, I'm going to go to a healer, which is absolutely fine. I'm a energy healer myself. I'm trained in Reiki, and I embrace spirituality in my own ways, and I do meditation. That's all good. But I really, really recommend to go to professionals for nervous system regulation. In addition, no, that I would say that would be the first thing to do, and then in addition you add other things like meditation, whatever helps you personally. So in conclusion, it's rebuilding but consciously, so doing what's right for you. So I'd like to know from the ex-Jehovah's Witness watching this, like, what have you struggled with since leaving, whether you've been born and brought up in it, or if you left kind of like me, you got recruited and then you left later on. How are you finding reintegrating back into normal society? So thank you for watching, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.